We now know that flavor is made up of smells, flavors, and textures, which are all different combinations of chemical compounds. In this lesson, we are going to learn about how to taste wine to best experience these different compounds. You might be thinking, well, that's silly. Tasting wine is easy. Open wide, sip, and swallow. That's drinking. What we are talking about here is better described as assessment. This means, as we look, smell, taste, and feel the wine, we are trying to understand it, judge it, and find out more about it. It's not all hard work, because thinking about wine as you drink it is one of the best parts of wine enjoyment. Remember how we said you can think of wine like a painting? Well, assessing wine like this is similar to standing in front of a painting, trying to understand what the artist was attempting to convey, appreciating the skill of the brushstrokes, and simply marveling at its beauty. Remember that language is tricky, and tasting can have more than one meaning. For this course, when we use the word taste, we mean the experience of wine on our tongues, and assess to mean to take in and consider all parts of the wine or flavor. Can you name the sense we have not yet discussed? If you said sight, you'd be right. The very first step in assessing wine is to look at it in the glass. As soon as you look at a wine, your brain starts performing all sorts of calculations and assumptions. The more you learn about wine, the more you will know about a wine just from looking at it. You will first see what color wine it is, red or white, and what variation of color as well. Is it a deep purple or a softer reddish brown? You will also see if the wine is cloudy or clear. The best way to look at a wine's color is to hold the glass in a well-lit room over a white background. If you hold it over a background with different colors, you may not be seeing a true reflection of the wine's color. As soon as we see a wine is red, our brain starts reminding us of all the other red wines we have tasted and what we believe red wine to taste like. So before we even taste, we are thinking, red wine, red wine, red wine. We depend very much on sight to experience wine. The next sense we are going to employ as we assess a glass of wine is our nose. Perhaps you have seen people swirling their wine glass before they smell it. The reason for this is so that all of those odorants we learnt about earlier can shake up and mix in with the air we breathe through our nose. Just 1 or 2 swirls will do it. What you're trying to do when you smell wine is to get as many of those odorants to the olfactory bulb as possible. This means you should give the wine a good smell, making sure both nostrils get into the glass. You don't have to sniff violently, just take a good, long sniff as if you were smelling a flower. When you first smell wine, you may only smell wine. That's okay. Nobody decides to be a painter and paints the Mona Lisa first try. You have to train your nose. It's also difficult because there are so many different odorants crammed into one glass. Sometimes it's hard to smell them apart. The more practice you have, and the more things you smell, the better your nose will become at spotting them. When you smell wine, take the time to think about what you can smell. Don't breathe too hard. Be patient and concentrate. Your nose is an advanced tool. You just need to practice using it. Once you have given the wine a good smell, and you have mentally noted all the different aromas you can pick up, the next step is to get it into your mouth. Now you can take a small sip. Make sure it coats your whole mouth. You can swish it around in your mouth a bit, or even suck in some air at the same time. Remember that the odorants in the wine can still find their way to the olfactory bulb through the retronasal passage. So even though the wine is in your mouth, you are still smelling it. Do you experience the same odorants you found when you smelt the wine? Are they new ones? While the wine is in your mouth, you are measuring it. First, measure the different tastes. How much sweetness, bitterness, sourness, or umami there is. Is the wine thick or thin? Is it smooth or prickly? Is there any heat? What does the wine feel like? The final step is putting all this information you have gathered from your eyes, nose, and mouth together. Just like when you're trying on clothes, you think about which items and colors match, which don't work, and which clash. When you assess wines, you are trying to do the same thing by judging if the aromas, tastes, and textures work together. To do this, we use three main aspects: complexity, length, and balance. These are all somewhat difficult terms on their own, but are very important for assessing and thinking about wine. Complexity is the amount of different smells, tastes, and textures you experience when you assess a wine. Some wines are quite simple, and this is fine. Not all wines are going to be very complex. But true complexity is one of the greatest characteristics of great wine. You will know you found it when you take a sip and your brain can hardly keep up with all the different aromas, textures, and tastes in a wine. Length is simply how long the flavor remains in your mouth. In great wines, the flavor of the wine will remain long after the wine has been swallowed, and the tastes and smells are still developing and unfolding in your mouth. Finally, we get to balance. Balance is a more difficult concept. Imagine a seesaw with a large person on the one end and a very small person on the other. The seesaw, as it is, will never balance. Wine is like a seesaw, with many, many seats, and on each one are tastes, smells, and textures. If one of these is too powerful, the wine will not be in balance. Unbalanced wines are easy to spot because one aspect won't fit with the other: too much sweetness, too much acidity, or an overwhelming smell. When everything is in balance, you hardly think about it, because everything is just right. Good wines should always be balanced. Let's take a look at how a wine professional tastes and describes a wine using all the aspects we have learnt about so far. Take note of how she uses the flavors and aromas of the wine to understand the wine's story.
So as you can see, the color is a little bit darker because the exposure is east, so the maturity is more advanced than in Clos du Château Montaigu. The nose, yes, blackberries, black cherries, maybe a note of pivoine. Here, you really feel the tannin. The structure is, it is a man. It is very explosive of fruit in the mouth. But now I can feel back the aromas. The persistence of the aromas is pretty long in this wine, so they last pretty